Hello, you are listening to the Bethel Atlanta Sermon of the Week. We hope you enjoy this message. For more information about Bethel Atlanta, visit www.bethelatlanta.com.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I did not set out to speak a sermon or a series on offense this summer, and the Lord has just kind of been revealing one step of the way at a time, like a breadcrumb and a breadcrumb of like, oh, He's actually uprooting something in our environment and displacing offense and replacing it with honor. And so I didn't set out to talk on a series, but it has formed into one in the last handful of sermons. And so I would just encourage you to go back and start listening to those if you haven't been in the room. Last time I spoke was about 2 weeks ago, and I shared about how offense affects our ability to honor. And we are blinded when we have offense in our lives. It blinds us to seeing people and seeing who they are and seeing the call of God on their life. And I shared about the old school whirlpool that you would make in a round pool in the summertime, and you'd all start going the same way. And this is how culture happens. It's almost like if culture is strong enough, you experience this whirlpool, this oasis, this honor culture, and you honestly can't help but honor in that environment. And so this is our dream. This is who we're called to be. And it starts, as Blake's word said, by giving away honor. We build that culture not by asking for honor, but by giving it away. And so Danielle leaned over to me during the worship time today, and she just said, hey, I think it's really important as we clean the house out of offense, there's an importance of replacing it with honor. This is like the story in Matthew about sweeping out the evil spirits and having to actually fill it with something in that place. And so I think there's an invitation in this hour that what are we filling our house with? What are we substituting in place of the offense? And I'm just so encouraged by the testimonies. Like people are approaching me and they're like, hey, I realized that I found myself offended and I caught it. And then I did something with it. Like these testimonies are for each and every one of us. Do it again, God. Like you don't realize how easy it is to get trapped into offense until you start seeing it in your life. And you're like, whoa, I went there really fast. So the testimony is He's bringing it to our attention to replace, to fill with honor, to substitute something in its stead. So that's what we're going after, okay? Okay. This is kind of all on the heels of Chris Valentin inviting me to close the door to offense. You know, in March, after that conference, we walked out those doors to the car, and he said, Lauren, close the door to offense here at Bethel Atlanta. And what is it unto, though? What are we closing this door to offense unto? And we're closing it unto honor. We're closing it to stir up an honor culture that it's like a whirlpool that you jump into and you can't help but be overwhelmed by honor. You can't help but be caught up in the swirl of, you see me for who I am. I see you for who I am. I'm calling you higher. I can't help but let honor come out of me. And so I want to call us to outdo one another in honor. In Romans 12:10, love one another with brotherly affection, outdo one another in showing honor. So Paul's talking to the Romans. In this culture, it was like social status and honor, those were like so significant. What he was saying was so countercultural because their whole goal was to build up their own honor and build up their own social status. And he's saying, actually, you're supposed to make someone else greater than you. Actually, the call on your life is to outdo someone with honor. And so he was adjusting their cultural norms and challenging them like, can you make them more honorable than you? Can you honor them more than you care about your own? And so what I want us to do is be on a journey of outdoing one another in honor. And so I want to lay some foundations of honor, and we'll start with honor. Why do we honor? We honor because we're honorable. We are made in his likeness. He is the most honorable. Thus, we are honorable. I'm actually not honorable because you're doing something that merits me showing you honor. If it's all worth-based, it's actually not me showing. I actually have to show honor because of who I am, not because of what you do. So this is a challenge when someone's acting super dishonorable. This is a challenge when someone is pushing all your buttons. But actually, I don't honor you because you're worth honoring. I honor because it's in me. I honor because I'm I'm made in his image, and I'm honorable. We honor the person made in the image of God. I'm actually honoring what I see in you that represents his character. We are all made in the image of God. And if I think about it, I'm like, what of God's millions of attributes are reflected in you, Kim? What of God's millions of attributes are reflected in Beth? And I get to see it. I get to seek it out. I get to search it. I get to find it. And the other thing is, they're in everyone. They're in that friend, and they're also in your enemy. There are attributes of the Father in your enemy. Are we the ones who get to see them? Are we, if they're your enemy, they're probably someone else's enemy. And how many people are seeing the attributes of the image of the Father in that person? Do we get the joy of seeing someone like they've never been seen before? Do we get the joy of saying, you don't even know how amazing you are? And they might not. It's our joy. In Romans 12, 4-5, for just as we have many parts in one body, all the body parts do not have the same function. So we, who are many, are one body in Christ, and individually parts of one another. There is an ability to derive the benefit of the gift of God on someone else's life that's right next to you. And there's gifts hidden in people on your right and left, like literally right now. There is a gift of God that's hidden in someone that is actually an answer and a key to you and to your breakthrough. And I have to actually honor what God has put inside of me and not wish that I looked like Jen. If I'm the hand and I'm so mad that I'm not a foot in this body, I'm missing something. I'm actually missing the ability to show up as the best hand God has ever created. If I'm just jealous of the foot over there, somebody's going to miss the beauty of the hand because I'm just wanting to be something else. I actually get to honor who he's created me to be and not wish it away. If I'm offended at God for making me a hand, it's going to prevent me from stepping into all that he's made me to be. And others aren't going to receive the benefit of my life. Honor will open us to receive from others. It'll open us to receive the benefit of the person on our right and our left. It'll open us to receive the grace that is on their life. And I have a story of this. I had a dream 5 years ago, and in the dream, I heard the Lord say, "You need to invite Tracy into your life to speak into your life, in a discipleship way." And I had great people in my life, and I'm like, okay, if God's going to tell me something in a dream, I'm doing it, And so we have built a relationship, and it has actually healed a part of my life that I didn't know needed healing. It has stepped into a need that I honestly wouldn't have known I had until I experienced her in that facet of discipleship. And it's kind of wild because hidden in Tracy was a need that I actually had. And through honor, I actually received something that I didn't know I needed. What is hidden on the person, in the person on your right and left? Honor will sustain a supernatural culture. A supernatural culture is sustained when we are bonded together, despite our differences, despite our frustrations, despite the messes we make with one another. And we are humans, so there's going to be a lot of messes. You know, we're in this. We know this already. But there's an opportunity for honor. In honor, we sustain a supernatural culture. It creates a place that a supernatural culture can show up. And Leif says, honor is what love looks like. Honor is what love looks like. So honor produces big people. And that's a call on our house to produce, to raise up leaders, to raise up big people. When others see me for who I am before I see that in myself, it creates something in me that wants to rise to where they see me. Like, you see that on my life? Okay, I guess it's true. I believe you. I haven't experienced this yet. I had a prophetic word from Chris Valentin a year and a half ago out in Reading. And he said, hey, Lauren, there's a confidence in you that the Lord anointed you to anoint, appoint, and commission. And I heard this word, and I found myself receiving a prophet in the name of a prophet. Okay, there's a grace on these words. I don't quite see it yet, but I'm going to attach my faith to the words released from a prophet and adjust my life accordingly and say, okay, it's true. How do I grow into that word? And so I'm honestly in a struggle. Okay, I'm supposed to anoint, appoint, and commission people. What does that look like? Okay, I have to fight the struggle even to stand up and do all the things and do what the word says. And in the end, I'm actually finding my confidence being built like the word said. There's a confidence in you that's built when you anoint, appoint, and commission people. So I stepped into a grace. I attached my faith to a word of a prophet. I honored the word. The people around me, they literally catalyzed the word in my life. They adjusted and they're like, if that's who he says you are, that's what we see you to be. They actually changed the way they saw me and called me higher. They addressed me differently. And in those elements of honor, I found myself growing into the word. Had I not, I don't know if I would be growing into the word like I am. The word was catalyzed by the people around me who honored it. We have the ability to catalyze words. When someone gets a prophetic word, like the 6 that were given last week. I missed y'all, by the way. I was out of town. But I was listening on the podcast, and I'm feeling my honor rise for those people that received those prophetic words. I'm like, that's exactly who Ruth is. Yeah, it is. I want to see that come to pass. I want to be part of that word in her life. This is our opportunity, church. So, when someone gets a word and they stand up, it's not the cue to check out because it's not you standing up. It's the opposite. It's that is my friend. That is my brother. That is someone I get to come alongside of that word. I get to honor that word with my life, call them higher, and then watch them become the word that was just released. This is why we do it. It's one of the reasons. A second part of Chris's word, he said, the Lord is bringing to you the oppressed religious people where places reduced them. The greatest sign of an apostolic house is that you make people bigger than you are. We are an apostolic house. The call and the thing that says we're an apostolic house is that we are making people bigger than us. So it's a very clear sign, there's people just growing all over this house. This is actually our destiny. It's who we are. And we have to use honor to see them and make them bigger. If I'm insecure, I'm not seeing you. I'm too busy looking at me. I'm too busy wondering what I'm not. If I'm insecure, I'm actually not calling the gold out of the person on my right and left. You watch this happen. When you're insecure, and we all have our moments, I assume, I'm so concerned with how I'm not measuring up. Instead of seeing how you are measuring up. Instead of recognizing who you are and saying, wow, look at who you are. So as a call on our house to be an apostolic house, we will have people getting bigger than us. And that is going to be our biggest win. We're going to be championing the person on my right and left that are, wow, look at you. Honor yields life. So in Exodus, Moses was given the 10 Commandments. Honor your father and mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. And Paul in Ephesians says it later. He's reminding the Ephesians, honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise. The promise of honor was life. So there's a result. Like, honor is selfless, but it's also bringing us life. So if honor yields life, offense yields death. Romans 6:23, the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ our Lord. So what am I partaking in? Am I partaking in the honor that brings life or the offense that yields death? And so as we sweep this house out with all these minor to major offenses, am I putting in their place, honor that's going to bring me life? So honor actually supersedes the law of sowing and reaping. When you sow and you get back what you sowed, that's awesome. When you honor, you actually get back more. You get what someone else paid for. I receive for free what someone else already paid for. This is how inheritance works. Fathers promote sons and daughters to do more or greater than they actually did themselves. It's a marker of success. Fathers who see their sons and daughters grow bigger than they did, it's like the highest point of success in the kingdom. And this is what every mom and dad in the room is thinking. I'm like, yes, I want my kids to do more and greater and fuller. And I want that more for them than I do for myself. This is the mark of a father, a mother. It's the mark of, oh, I want to see you excel. So I've actually found this to be true in my life. I've found there's a different way that's better than sowing and reaping, which I value. But I have found in my relationship with Leif Hetland, I have honored him as a father in my life. I have positioned my heart toward receiving from him and adjusting my heart to honor him. And I have found an inheritance that I did not pay for. I have found myself in rooms that I don't belong in. I have found myself being prayed for by heroes of mine because of his invitation. And it's not what I paid for. It's actually honor to him and his inheritance that has invited me into rooms that I don't belong in. So it's not a sowing and reaping thing. It's actually an honor that releases blessing and inheritance. So I'm going to tell you all a little story. It's an old story. Back in 2000. In 2000, I went to Georgia Tech for college, and I started there, and I decided to go to a campus ministry. And this campus ministry was led by my uncle / next door neighbor. And it was a thriving campus ministry. So I get there, and pretty immediately, Rick says to me, I don't talk to freshmen. I'm a freshman. I'm also his niece. Feel a little worthy of being talked to. And he's like, I don't talk to freshmen. I'm like, I'm kind of offended already. And I find myself like very familiar with Rick. He's been at my house every weekend of my life. He's around. He's driving really fast down my driveway. I see him. He's in my life. And familiarity breeds contempt. And I found myself offended at this man that was leading a pretty robust campus ministry. And so I'm offended. I'm still reaping some of the benefits of the ministry. I have a senior named Marin who starts investing in me. She treats me like a little sorority sister. She brings me gifts, takes me fun places. And all the while, I'm offended at Rick, who actually was the person who empowered Marin to love on freshmen. So I'm living in offense at a man whose leadership is actually benefiting me in real time. I slowly adjust my heart. I go my sophomore year. The sophomores in that ministry are supposed to serve. And so my job was to vacuum the campus house every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. So there I am walking across a Georgia Tech campus every Tuesday night in the dark to go vacuum in the midst of studying. And I felt my heart softening. I felt the offense kind of slowly fading. In my third year, we actually had this group of leaders that would pray under the giant oak tree. And we'd bring all the couches in the house out and set them under this oak tree. And we're between like fraternities and sororities. So we're like on Techwood Avenue, right out there praying every Wednesday night, I think it was. And my heart continued to soften in honor toward my uncle. And I started seeing the beauties that this ministry was producing. And I started experiencing the life that it was bringing me and bringing my peers. And until my senior year, Brent and I, along with 16 others, were part of leading this ministry. Like we were totally empowered. Like y'all are preaching at the retreats. Y'all are leading this ministry. I was in Rick's office once a week with another 2 women, getting discipled week after week after week in this man's office that I was offended at 4 years ago. And so, he also prophetically would call out people's destinies and say, hey, I think you're supposed to go to Global Scope and live in England and basically start a campus house there. So lo and behold, I end up in Spain doing this, starting campus ministry. Brent did this in Mexico. And it's kind of crazy because I always have had and actually still have the opportunity to be offended at him. The opportunity to be offended at him doesn't go away. He can ruffle my feathers in the wrong way. And yet, my honor for him is huge. Like what I see, I watch that ministry produce so many God-chasing Christians that are really literally around the globe in multiple countries, spreading the gospel for the last 20 years due to his investment. And I get the chance to stumble over who he's not or say, oh my goodness, look who you are. And it's not a one-time thing. He didn't offend me my freshman year by saying I don't talk to you, and it's done, and I'm over it. This is an opportunity. Am I stumbling over who you're not, or do I get to say, wow, look at who you are? It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away that I could get offended with the person on my right and left. They're still there. They're still being human. So can I see past it? Or is that going to be a stumbling block to my future? The amount of stumbling block that would have been, and the trajectory of my life would be drastically different had I chosen offense as an 18-year-old. My 18-year-old self choosing offense, decides not to go to that campus ministry. I can't believe my uncle doesn't talk to me. What is his deal? I wouldn't have studied abroad and fell in love with missions to a greater level. I wouldn't have met my husband in that campus ministry. I wouldn't have had this experience of leadership, discipleship, growth that I had. I'm very thankful my 18-year-old self got over herself. But what would have been lost without that heart adjustment? The amount that can be lost through offense is shocking. There's so much room for loss and gain. So I want to give us some tools to steward this honor in place of offense. And one of them I mentioned earlier, it was when I hear these prophetic words, can I actually see them for who they are, not who they're not, and then adjust my life to honor them accordingly? Oh, I don't think I saw that before now, but I can see it now, and I can start treating you according to that word. Another tool, when you get alone with somebody and you're talking about, hey, what do you burn for? What does your heart come alive for? It's hard not to see something beautiful come out of them. Just asking them, what makes your heart come alive? You learn something about a person that you had no idea. And it's something worth honoring. Oh, I had no idea you had a passion for that. Wow. Another practical thing is to actually prophesy over them. Hey, I'm kind of offended, God, at so-and-so. What do you think about them? And let him reveal it to you. It'll change the way you see them. The other one is I'm following the honor of others. I'll have Dan, he'll see people in our environment before I do. He'll be like, have you seen so-and-so? Do you know the call in their life? And I haven't. Either I haven't met him or I haven't seen it. And I get to say, oh, that's awesome. I haven't seen it yet, but I trust you to see something great in that person. And I'm going to adjust my life to match it. Oh, I can honor that in you too. That's incredible. And then before I know it, I fully see it. I just hadn't looked. I hadn't looked before. And so I've been dreaming around our culture, this whirlpool of honor that we're building, right? And I'm dreaming, what does this look like in 20 years? What does it look like, as Chris said, this house that finds us with the oppressed religious people here, and that we're making people bigger than ourselves? And I feel like you'll hear comments in 20 years that sounds like, do you remember when Vanessa was leading worship up here, holding 2-year-old Margot? I was back in the room in those days. I saw her in those days. Look at where she is today. It's like I saw them become who God called them to be. I actually was part of watching it, calling it out, seeing her rise to who she's been created to be. It's kind of a wild process. Can you imagine a room full of people who are just in awe of the people on their right and left? Oh yeah, I remember. When you get around grandparents, they're like, I remember when you were 2 years old. And they watch you grow up. And they're so impressed with the person you are today. This is that culture that we're building. It's full of people oh yeah, I remember when. And look at them now. This is incredible. In this culture, your breakthrough is my breakthrough. And my breakthrough is your breakthrough. When we hear Marissa share a testimony about an autoimmune condition being healed, psoriasis is healed. The results are, on tests and doctor proven, and it's an autoimmune condition. and I need an autoimmune breakthrough. Her breakthrough is actually my breakthrough. It's actually a house that is stirring up honor for the breakthrough on her life rather than like jealousy for the lack of breakthrough on mine. This house, we get to be like the highest caliber of celebrators on the planet. Like, I'm like, every time you get a breakthrough, the water level rises. And when the water level rises, all ships rise. So I can't help but receive the benefit of Marissa's life for my own, because her breakthrough is actually mine. And you can't help but receive the breakthrough from my life. What I'm paying a price for, you get to step into through honor. Jesus, in his hometown, could not do any miracle except a few people were healed. In Mark 6, people were saying, is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James, and Judas, and Simon? And are these sisters not here with us? And they took offense at him. And he said to them, a prophet is not dishonored except in his hometown and among his own relatives and in his own household. And he could not do any miracle there except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. And he was amazed at their unbelief. Can you picture the crowd there in his hometown? Isn't this the carpenter's son? Who does he really think he is? I saw him playing in the streets as a kid. I don't know. I mean, his friends are, have you seen his friends? I got questions about his friendships. Do you know who he hangs out with on the weekends? The amount of judgment limited the king of the world from doing many miracles there. So the reverse is also true. With honor, can you imagine what would have happened in his hometown? Can you imagine the breakthroughs that would have come from his hometown? Like, it takes more to honor people you know. It doesn't take a lot to honor that superstar on, podcast that you don't see. You don't know their life. You don't get to stumble over many offenses because you don't get to encounter many offenses. It's real easy to honor from afar. It's real hard to honor up close. Am I going to stumble over our proximity and over the fact that I saw you as a kid? Over, I know who they hang out with. I have some questions about that. How easy is it for me to stumble over who they're not when I have proximity? This is my issue with Rick. I don't know everybody had an issue. I'm like, familiarity. It's real easy when you're real close. With honor, can I imagine what would happen? His hometown would have had a very, very different experience. If we, as a house, are so full of honor for those who we're familiar with, we'd have a room full of giants. We would have world changers in our midst, and we do. It would just exponentially catapult the number of world changers in our midst, because instead of dishonor, we show crazy honor, and they're actually able to do more than they could do before. When you can feel honor, you can feel when someone's pulling on you with honor. It's crazy. I will find things come out of my mouth. I'm like, I did not know that was in there. That was pretty wise. Like, I'll be surprised when I feel the honor pull. I'm like, And it's actually a kingdom principle. And I find when honor is present, I actually show up in a different way. When dishonor is present, Jesus was able to do a few miracles. So who we're created to be is this house that is so just bubbling to overflow with honor that people can't help but find themselves surprised at who they're becoming. I didn't know that was in me. I didn't know that was a call on my life. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I could walk in that type of courage. I didn't know that was a destiny on my life. But I'm just in a whirlpool of honor, an oasis of honor, that it's seen and it's called out. And then we all get to watch these big people around us get bigger than we are and think this is the highest form of success. We are winning at life. Look at how big these people are around me. It's shocking. I had no idea, but I saw it before you saw it. So this is the house I'm dreaming of us becoming. This is the house we are. It's been prophesied over us. It's the apostolic house where people just get bigger and bigger than you. It's a beautiful place.
Thank you for listening to the Sermon of the Week. To stay connected with Bethel Atlanta, visit www.bethelatlanta.com.